Hello viewers and welcome to Novus Talks with me, your host Novus Corvius. And with 2021 behind us, I decided now is a good time to look back and reflect on all of the content I've uploaded in the past year. I did this at the start of 2021 as well. It's actually the first video of the year, and just like that video, we're going to be going through each of the videos I've uploaded. Maybe not every single one, but we're going to go through some of them and, examine, what was going on at the time, the content I was talking about, the news, just everything that relates to the channel and what we got done in the year. One of my goals, as I mentioned in one of my recent videos, was to upload 100 videos this year, and we just barely got there in the end. It took a bit of rushing at the end. We had to upload a lot of YouTube shorts, which we will get to later on, but that was my main goal for the year, and I kind of slacked off in the early months, but we did get there, and I am really happy we got there. And so now is the perfect time, as I keep saying, to look back and see just the sort of progression of where we were then versus where we are now. So here we are at the start anyway, and as I said, the first video of 2021 was the evolution of my channel in 2020. So the point of this video really was, I wanted to compare my channel where I was going into 2021 versus where I was in 2020. Because as I mentioned several times, 2020 was the first time I was actually able to edit videos for the first time properly and upload on a consistent basis. It was the first time my videos started having thumbnails, so this was a landmark for me really in terms of YouTube. And this video was basically a summary of all that. I went through some of my most successful videos of the year, what I liked and what I didn't like about them. And as the thumbnail alone shows, there was a quality difference between, just thumbnails alone. And, I really like what I did with that video because, again, it just sums up where we were over those 2 years, and 2020 was such a pivotal year for the channel, and I'd like to think 2021 continued that trend, not to the same extent, but I think we still kept a good bit of that progression going, and I'm happy with where we got. And then of course the second video of the year was my Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Trailer 2 reaction. This is one I am interested to look back on because, as we know, fnaf Security Breach came out and it was nothing like the trailers. I was interested in this game because I sort of have a love-hate interest with Five Nights at Freddy's. So I was interested in all these trailers to see if this could really be the best Five Nights at Freddy's yet. It had the potential. The marketing and stuff was certainly interesting, but the actual game itself, I think, failed in the final hurdle because I think the actual game really didn't deliver on what it was promising. So again, looking back at the trailer, that was Vanessa's voice, and using her original voice actress from the Help Wanted DLC, which was changed in the final game for some reason. So very strange. I shouldn't say any of these lines in the game. That's not in the game either, that laugh. It is so weird, just how very little from the marketing was in the final game. And while there were things to enjoy about Security Breach, overall I think they just really missed the mark. Whatever happened behind the scenes, they gave us a product that was not what was being marketed at all. And that really bothers me. I hate when companies, both movies and in games, do that. It's the worst thing you can experience as a fan. But luckily, coming off of the Security Breach trailer, we had our first trailer for Super Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury. And I'm only just now noticing that I made an error in the title of that video and forgot to put the word world in it. But yeah, this was the first time we finally saw Bowser's Fury. The game was announced in September of 2020, and we only got a vague tease of Bowser's Fury, but this was the first time we actually saw it. This was the first time we got to see anything of what this game was supposed to be, and it was actually really exciting because, as you can tell, it has this dark, foreboding narrative. Coming off the Game Awards that year where we didn't see the game, it was a really big deal getting this. And obviously this led to a theory, which I made a whole other video on that. Getting this trailer or shadow drop proved that we wouldn't get Nintendo Directs again, which thankfully I was wrong about, but still, either way, this is like a really cool trailer overall, and probably one of my favorite game trailers I've seen in a while. It goes from this typical fancy colourful Mario adventure to something a bit darker rather quickly, which is rather interesting to me. Of course, remember this was a point of contention. Bowser Jr. weren't sure if he was playable or if it was just an AI that would follow you around. Thankfully it's both. In the final product he does follow you, but you can change the difficulty. And of course, there's this Calamity Ganon moment, as we all call this. Such a cool moment. Obviously, like, the music really set the tone for that as well, because it was really like out there for Mario, because we're not used to hearing something as, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, heavy as that. It was interesting. But yeah, getting to see that trailer for the first time was definitely an exciting moment, and it was a relief because I was getting worried that they wouldn't show us the game or that the game would get delayed, but luckily that didn't happen. And I already touched on the next video after that about Nintendo Directs not coming back, which proved to be wrong a few weeks later, thankfully. But at the time, it really seemed like we weren't going to be getting any more Nintendo Directs. Following up that, then I did a review for the Wonderful 101 Remaster, which was for the Nintendo Switch. The Wonderful 101 was a Wii U game developed by Platinum Games, the developers of Bayonetta. It was a game that always had my interest. I picked it up on Switch. It's one of the worst games I've ever played. And that review, I think I did it it was actually the day I started playing the game for the first time. I think I'd gotten 3 hours into the game. I was so fed up with it. I did that review like straight away on the spot. That's how I did beat the game in the end, but my god, I hated it. It was not a fun time at all in that. But I seem to be in the minority. A lot of people are torn on it, but it has quite a bunch of fans, so hey, well done to Platinum, I guess. And then of course the trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong. Another big moment, not so much for me, but for like movie fans. I remember like people were asking for this for like 2 years. People really wanted a trailer for this movie that had been delayed like 3 or 4 times, and when we finally got this, you know, that trailer was absolutely incredible. I remember watching it, I remember doing this video, getting super excited, and then when the actual movie came out, you know, it delivered on everything it promised. I was expecting to go in and get disappointed, but no, the movie actually delivered on what it promised, and the full movie was just this big long fight between Godzilla and Kong. It was exactly like what was promised, and that's why I was really happy with the final product. It had some issues, the story could have been better, but that wasn't why we all watched the movie. It did turn out pretty good in the end, and I believe I did a review. I'm not actually sure if I did. I'm sure I'll find out in a while. And of course, the next 2 videos, going back to gaming, when will we see Bayonetta 3 and is Metroid Prime 4 the end of the Prime saga? These 2 videos, the Bayonetta one was from frustration again. Like a lot of the Bayonetta 3 videos I do, they usually came from frustration. I did them on the spot because we wouldn't get news, or a major event happened where we didn't get news, and so I was always left just shrugging my shoulders, asking, where the hell is this game? Is it even coming out, as the title says? And for a time, I was starting to believe the game was cancelled. I was having my suspicions because we finally saw it in September, but at that point it had been like 4.5 years since we last saw it, so you can't exactly blame me for coming to that conclusion when we saw nothing in those 4 years. Contrasting that with the Metroid Prime 4 video, that was actually done after being inspired after watching another YouTuber, Rule of Two Review, did a video on the same topic about, Metroid Prime 4 being the last Metroid Prime game. Which, my video, I just went in and discussed my thoughts on the matter. I think I came to the conclusion that I've always had, which was, I think they're doing a trilogy. I think Metroid Prime 4 is the start of a trilogy centered around Psylocke, that whole story, and it's going to start leaving clues as to what exactly happens with the Metroids that makes them so dangerous that they have to get wiped out in Metroid 2. So I think that's going to be a trilogy that's about bridging the gap. Then we had my first and almost my only Transformers video of the year, which was, we had the working title for the next live-action Transformers movie. We called it Beast Alliance at the time. This was like back in March, I want to say. Very early in the year, we got details about Beast Alliance, and I think there were some filming details and vague plot leaks or whatever revealed. That was interesting because we'd gone so long without hearing anything about Transformers at that time. We didn't even know the official title. I thought it would actually be called Beast Alliance because that seems more like a solid title. And obviously from the thumbnail, I touched a bit on the concept art that was revealed, so that we're unsure what exactly that concept art was for. If it was for this movie, if it was for one of the other ones from the writer's room. We know it's not from Transformers The Last Night because the Cheetor concept art from The Last Night looks nothing like this. So that was really interesting. Maybe it was an older concept for the same movie. We don't know the exact details, and maybe we never will, but it's an interesting piece nonetheless. And shortly afterwards, we finally had a Nintendo Direct for the first time in about a year and 6 months, I think it was. In February, we got our first Nintendo Direct of the year. This was a really cool one. I don't actually remember much of what was shown here. I know this is when we got Skyward Sword. We got this, this was a big one. We had Skyward Sword, we had Splatoon 3 announced, we had, a mention that we would see Breath of the Wild later on in the year. The Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity DLC was announced, and I remember that because they showed the title card thing on screen for like 2 seconds, and I couldn't even read it before it vanished. But there was a lot of big things in that Direct, and I was left feeling mixed afterwards, but looking back on it now, that was a large Nintendo Direct. That was a pretty meaty one. Having gone through 2021 now and knowing just how many games are coming out this year and how important all of them are, I think whatever Nintendo Directs come next could be really exciting and even bigger than this. And my first, 2 videos after that were obviously snippets of reactions to Zelda and Age of Calamity from that. And then we finally had another Security Breach trailer. Sorry, this was the gameplay one. I remember I just rewatched this one recently actually because after Security Breach I went back to look at it and nothing from this trailer in particular is in the game, You have the Springtrap arm at the end, but he is in the game, but that specific scene isn't. So there's a lot of weird things. All of his voice lines. It is a really cool trailer though. I remember I jumped immediately into filming this reaction. I think after it came out, I think I was doing something, but then I jumped right into recording, and I remember being really excited. And the trailer is really cool. It had me excited for the game. I was expecting this to be the best game yet. It ended up potentially being the worst FNAF game. Obviously Scott retired, so Scott Cawthon, so that probably had a large effect on the amount of content that was cut. But man, it's actually ridiculous how much from that specific trailer was missing. It gave us a glimpse at the gameplay, but it also deceived us greatly. And that's something that I'm very bitter about. From one topic to another, Breath of the Wild and Metroid Prime 4 is the next video. This was, as the title suggested, which is kind of funny now, looking at it now that we're in 2022, I had this thought going in my head that, could we really be going to a year where both of these games are coming out in 2022? I thought Breath of the Wild would come out in March and Metroid in November. It's looking like Breath of the Wild is a November release, and Metroid, I'm confident in my November 2023 release. And then finally, the review for Bowser's Fury. The game came out, I think I beat it in like 2 weeks. I think most of that time was spent on the 3D World portion. Super Mario 3D World was a game I always wanted to play. I never had a Wii U, so I never got to play it, but I had 3D Land on the 3DS and I really enjoyed it. And I remember seeing, I have a gaming magazine somewhere that had like screenshots of the game in it, and I thought it looked so cool and I wanted to play it. So when they finally announced this game and I got to pick it up, it felt awesome. Being able to play this game I wanted to play for years that I thought I wouldn't be able to play without getting original hardware. They finally made it convenient, and that was a lot of fun. I can't believe that released almost a year ago now. It's kind of crazy to think about. And of course, I think this is the first video I did on the Nintendo Switch Pro rumors. God, whatever happened in 2020 and 2021, these persisted. They were really picking up momentum and gaining traction at the tail end of 2020. Everybody kept going on about these rumors as if they were facts, and every gaming YouTuber was touching on it at some point, every media outlet, There was, the way I viewed it, there was never proof. There was never anything to really give me faith that these were true. Oh, they come from reputable sources. Yeah, but these sources were wrong before, and we haven't seen any evidence. Every rumor they say is happening hasn't turned out to happen. So I never believed Bloomberg's reports or any of that, despite most of the world doing it. The reason I did this video in particular was because this was around the time, it was a rumor I think, or maybe it was confirmed, that Nintendo's partnership with Nvidia was at risk or something because they wouldn't have enough chips to mass produce the original Switch model. So they were going to replace the Tegra X1 with a more powerful chip. The conclusion I came to was that they would phase out the normal Switch with the exact same thing but with a different chip. Still remains to be seen of that, but thankfully I was right. In the end, the Switch Pro didn't happen, but of course we will get to that when that topic shows up. Yeah, and then these next two videos, I was caught with this. The first video, I thought it was the Doom Eternal trailer. At this point, I started getting into Doom, and I was looking for content to do. I had no ideas, so I said, what? The DLC trailer is coming soon. I'll react to it. I recorded the video, and it wasn't the actual trailer that came out. It was an announcement teaser for the trailer. So I felt really stupid after doing that. And then the next day, I had to do the actual trailer then. But it was a cool trailer. The DLC itself, very lackluster. It was cool in some parts, but could have been a lot better. And the final boss fight was kind of lame, to be honest. But and of course the retconning of the lore. It just did a lot of things that were controversial. But I think from a gameplay and visual standpoint, it's pretty damn cool. And of course, the end of Super Mario 3D All-Stars. This, despite how bad the whole situation was around that game being removed from existence, it was fun in a way because everyone was able to have a lot of fun with it. All the YouTubers like Game Explain and others, like when March 31st came around, everyone was doing these funeral and eulogy videos for 3D All-Stars. There was these jokes about Mario being executed. And it kind of happened throughout the year as well because, Dr. Mario World, that got taken down. There was some other like Mario thing discontinued as well. So like the running joke of Mario being killed kept going on throughout the year. And it's interesting looking back now how, they had this huge celebration for Mario's 35th anniversary. And then throughout 2021, they kind of ignored Mario for that. He still got games, 3D World, Mario Golf and Mario Party. But for the most part, Mario was pushed aside in favor of smaller tier games, and that's what I really liked about this year ultimately. It represented Nintendo looking at a different direction and which games to actually focus on. So that was the one really good thing to come out of the situation. I was speculating on what would happen afterwards. Would the games get split up and sold individually? Would they appear on Switch Online? Ultimately, we still don't know. Mario 64 is on Switch Online right now, but Sunshine and Galaxy we still have yet to see, so maybe something will get done with those in time. Jumping over to another topic that was highly prevalent throughout the year, Spyro from the Book of Saw. This became a weirdly identity-based thing for me in terms of content throughout the last 2 years. What I mean by that is, it feels like most of my content in 2020 was about Spyro from the Book of Saw. I did so many videos on it. It got a lot of attraction. I gained a lot of subs and views from it, and the engagement was really nice. I was excited. I did a bunch of videos. It got delayed to this year, and this was my first video of the year on it. It was the reaction to the second trailer, which I was shocked that we got a second trailer. I was actually disappointed with that second trailer. I thought it didn't do enough to make the movie look interesting. I had a hunch that the movie wasn't going to be as serious as a typical Saw movie. And in a way I was right, because when the actual movie came out, it wasn't as comical as I thought it would be, but it was still far removed from what Saw is supposed to be, which we'll get to as well on my review, which I know is coming up here pretty quickly. And oh my god, the 5th of April, the Nintendo 3DS turned 10 years old. I did a video on this, not because it was a big deal, even though it kind of was, mostly because of nostalgia. As I talked about in that video, the Nintendo 3DS, I always viewed as an extension of the Nintendo DS. Not that they're the same. I recognize that the 3DS is its own next-gen system by comparison, but I always played my DS games on my 3DS. For me, it served a purpose. If anything happened to my DS, I could play all my games on that. The 3DS, I cherish. I had so much fun with it. As I talked about in the video, playing all my DS games on it, making new memories with those on it. I touched a bit on Bowser's Inside Story, which was one of the first video games I ever played. It was one I played a lot in my childhood, and when the remake came out, it was the last game for the 3DS, and I loved it. I thought it was a masterpiece that improved on what was already a perfect game. So for me personally, it was kind of nice that the last game to close out that piece of my life in a way was the game that sort of started it all. It was a nice little nostalgic bit for me, even though a lot of people would disagree with that. And then, shortly afterward, this Nintendo News Roundup is a weird video. All I can really say about this, at the time, I wanted to do videos, but there were so many smaller news bits happening that weren't really worth doing a whole video on each of them. Or at least I felt I couldn't get enough content from them. So I dumped them all into one video. And I was going to keep this going. I was going to make a trend out of this originally, going forward with each month, but eventually I decided I couldn't be bothered. So that video stands out as an enigma to me. Can't say I'm particularly proud of it, but I did it out of the fact that I felt I needed to upload something. Jumping again from Nintendo to the other extreme, Saw 10. So yeah, this was the first time we were hearing about a 10th Saw movie. 2 weeks before Spiral was supposed to come out, we saw on productionweekly.com there was a listing for Saw 10, and later on Darren Bousman confirmed that it was legit, but the movie wasn't anywhere. Like, they hadn't really started it yet, you know, they were only in the early concept stages of the movie. But it was interesting that we were hearing that before Spiral. And I'm wondering if the movie changed any bit, because they started writing the script recently. I wonder if it was going to be a sequel to Spiral, but now they've changed it because of the controversy around Spiral. I don't really know. We'll find out when I surely make a bunch of videos on that in the next coming months. My theories for Spiral from the Book of Saw. I really wanted to do this. I was adamant that I had to do a theory video before the movie came out, because I don't think I've ever really done that for any of the movies I've talked about on YouTube, on this channel, or on my Nova Scorpius channel. I've never done a last minute theories thing. I did it with Spiral because I was so interested in it and I wanted to make videos on it. I enjoy making videos on Spiral from the Book of Saw, so I really wanted to get one done before the movie came out, because once the movie came out, I wouldn't be doing videos on it anymore. And I actually spent a lot of time on that thumbnail. It didn't turn out the greatest. Truth be told, I could have done better with it, but with how it turned out, you still get the gist of the spiral and my face, so I guess it's, you know, it turned out alright. I will say the thumbnails for my Spiral videos are some of my favorite that I've ever made, because some of them are pretty cool and I'm genuinely proud of a lot of them. But then some of them, you know, they could have been a bit better, and that's one that could have been a bit better, but it still turned out, I'm still happy with how it turned out. And, you know, as I mentioned, you know, I did a review for Godzilla vs. Kong. I thought the movie was brilliant. As I said, it delivered on exactly what it was supposed to, which was primarily be a fight between these two kaiju. And I was so worried going into it, because we knew Mechagodzilla was going to be a thing. I was so worried that Kong wasn't going to be fighting the real Godzilla. It would just be Kong versus Mechagodzilla, and we wouldn't get the actual fight. But we did. We got both of those. We got Godzilla versus Kong. They fought twice in the movie. Godzilla kicked his ass twice. And then we got Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Kong versus Mechagodzilla. So we got a lot of kaiju action in that movie, and I think it's the best of its series yet. It seemed like it's the end, which is weird because they were supposedly doing a cinematic universe. So we've yet to hear if any concrete plans have been laid out for future kaiju movies, but hopefully I'd love to see a Godzilla 3. Following on with another review. After a year of doing theory videos, trailer reactions, poster reactions, I finally got to do a review for Spiral from the Book of Saw. I did a review for this movie that I was talking about for a whole year, and that became a big part of my channel throughout the pandemic. And I was honest in it. I think this was a spoiler-free review. I mentioned that I enjoyed it. The traps were really cool and unique, but a lot of it felt weird, disjointed. Lack of John Kramer felt really noticeable, and ultimately it could have been a better movie, but it wasn't bad, but it could have been like an actual Saw movie. Now you may notice here that I uploaded the same video twice, and you may be wondering, you know, what the hell's up with that? I did this reaction video the first time. It got copyright strike. Specifically, the very first trailer for the very first Saw movie got copyright striked. So I re-uploaded the video and just cut out that first bit. The reason I didn't delete the first video was because it was blocked in certain countries. so most people probably don't see it anyway. In fact, if you go on my channel right now, I don't know if you'll actually see this video here, if you'll just see one or both of them, but yeah, I uploaded the same video twice. Again, the thumbnail with this is when I took time crafting. It's a bit choppy, but having the movies aligned all around me, it's pretty cool. I quite like it. Not the best thumbnail ever, I'm aware of that, but I actually quite like what I did with that. And wow, now we're into June. We're into the month where everything changes. E3, we were coming up to E3. A few months ago it was announced that E3 was happening. We all expected it to be really big. We thought that a lot of games would be shown. Most of the companies didn't, but Nintendo was going to be an exception, as we were soon going to find out. I made some predictions in this video, and I think I actually have them here. In that prediction video, I gave Breath of the Wild 2 a 100% chance of showing up. It did show up. I gave Skyward Sword a 100% chance of showing up. It did show up. Age of Calamity, 100% chance. It did show up. No More Heroes, not in the main show, but it was in the Treehouse, so that did show up. Bayonetta I gave 50% chance. We didn't get that. We didn't get Splatoon. We did get Smash. I think we got Mario Golf. Pokemon Legends, I don't think we saw anything for. Didn't see the Pokemon remakes. No Zelda, no Mario Kart, no Donkey Kong. Mario Party we did see. Fire Emblem we didn't. Star Fox we didn't. And then the interesting bit, I gave a 50% chance for Metroid Dread, which, is funny because this ended up being one of my most accurate lists I've ever made, because most of the stuff here did show up in the actual E3. But it's funny, especially with Metroid in particular. We didn't get the Prime Trilogy, we didn't get Prime 4. Mario Galaxy 3, we didn't get it, but we got Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. It's not really the same thing, but it's close, and I'm super excited for it. I'm as excited for it as if it was an actual legit Mario game, so that is sort of legit to me. Didn't get Golden Sun, unfortunately. We did get a Game & Watch, we didn't get Mario Galaxy. But yeah, it's funny how a lot of these turned out to be true. Metroid Dread in particular, because I've made this prediction for like the last 3 E3s and Game Awards, Metroid Prime, Prime Trilogy, Prime 4, Dread, I always gave them like a 50% chance, because I was never able to decide on which one would show up. So I always sort of cheated and put down remarks for each of them showing up, because I was like, Metroid has a possibility of showing up in a 2D fashion, or Prime, because I felt like, we would get Prime Trilogy before Prime 4, and if we get Prime Trilogy, we'll get a trailer for Prime 4. But it was always, for me, going to be between Metroid Dread and Metroid Prime Trilogy. If Dread showed up, we wouldn't see the others, but with Dread, I was always wondering, would we really get another 2D Metroid so soon? Or are all of their resources focused on Metroid Prime 4? It had been 4 years since the last Metroid game, so we were in a bit of a drought again, and I wasn't sure if another 2D Metroid was coming, or, as I said, their resources were on Prime 4, which had been delayed. But, as you've seen, on June 16th, I believe it was, we got our answer. I'm actually going to watch this one again because I love my reaction on it. It's everything I always thought a reaction would be. I remember walking down to my friend's house, going to E3, feeling really nervous. I was thinking to myself, could is this the year we see Metroid, coming off of the Paper Mario tease and stuff, Are we getting a new 2D Metroid? Could we finally see Metroid Dread? Is there a chance that the game exists? That was one in particular I was thinking about, because I was like, Prime 4, it's too soon. It's going to be the trilogy or Dread or neither. As we will see...
I'd say to you, James, what do you think?
Before we show this next trailer,
I'd like to say one thing.
It's changed everything.
Currently, we're working hard on the latest game in the Metroid Prime series, which we previously announced. But today, we'd like to introduce another new entry.
None of this was paid for views. All of this was legit excitement.
I didn't fucking think they'd do it.
I'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to see my reaction here.
Whoa! What is this? Metroid Dread. Oh my god! No! 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 This is real! What the what?
This is
What the fuck? This is not real! This is not real!
My reaction, I remember having
Oh
chills.
my god!
I was in pure disbelief. I had like a head rush, chills all over my body. Couldn't really fathom what was happening. This was real, you know. It was so cool that they name dropped the game twice. How many games can you think if they did that? You know, they said Metroid 5. I knew exactly what the game was. I knew what was coming. I knew what this game represented. And then, as you'll see in a minute, they did a second name drop, which was the actual name drop. So, so cool having the title revealed twice in a row, you know?
It's so smooth.
They'd cancel the Metroid game where there's going to be like an AI villain. And I think that's what it is. They used the title! Yes!
I could watch that video all day, but honestly, the chills I had, and that second, that last agonizing second, when Samus gets captured by the Emmy, the word Metroid shows up, and there's like a 1 second pause, but it felt like an eternity because that moment was going to be the final confirmation as to whether or not the game I was seeing was Metroid Dread. Yes, it was Metroid 5, but for all I've known, that could have been a different game. It might have been a different title. It might have been a new concept unrelated to the original game from 2005, you know? I wasn't sure that they would bring back Metroid Dread. You know, I always believed they would, but when I saw Metroid 5, I was thinking, maybe it's not the same. But that last second, and then the title glitches, and I see Metroid Dread. And then when he says it, I can never remember his name, but the guy doing the announcement for the game, he says, it's the brand new Metroid Dread. You know, the disbelief, what I was hearing was real. It was like looking into my soul and like giving me everything I wanted. Because it literally was everything I wanted. That was a huge moment. That was pivotal. It was validation of being a fan. And that was the video that would dictate the next few months for me, really. I did a Breath of the Wild 2 reaction afterwards. Funny enough, you know, going into E3, you know, if we didn't get Metroid but we did get Breath of the Wild, I'd be happy. We got both, but after Metroid Dread, I didn't really care about anything else. You know, when I saw Breath of the Wild 2, you know, I didn't really care because, first of all, it wasn't a full, proper trailer. We didn't get a title reveal. We didn't get any story indications. We only got vague glimpses that gave us more questions than answers. So I was disappointed with that trailer. But I didn't care because I had fucking Metroid 5, which was real. And then, yeah, I did immediately afterwards, I did 2 videos back to back, which I want to say I really like what I did here with the thumbnails. This sort of mirror imaging, you know, the blue with Samus, the red with the Metroid. Metroid Dread means so much to me. Obviously, it's self-explanatory. It did, you know, I've said in that video, I've said it in multiple videos since. Metroid Dread's existence is a really big deal to me. It was this game that was fabled, you know. You could do a whole fucking documentary series on Metroid Dread because it was just this something that I'd heard about as rumor that maybe was a game that existed. We're not really sure. Theories abound. Some people believed it existed. Most people didn't, I think. But it seemed like Nintendo confirmed it was. It was a weird situation. But the theories, all the fan-made, you know, title screens and music on YouTube, you know, imagining what that world would have been like. We don't need to do it anymore because it actually existed. And that was so crazy to me. And I was on such a Metroid rush that I had to get my thoughts out. That's why I did the Metroid Dread history video, which there were a few mistakes I made in it. I forgot to point out some things, and there was information I learned afterwards, like a few weeks afterwards, that I wish I could have gone back and put in. So that video could do with some changes, but there's no need to do another one, so I just left it as is. And then a month later, in July, we have, the rumors going into E3 were that we would see the Switch Pro before E3, or maybe afterward. And then a month later, we finally do get new hardware from Nintendo. Nintendo Switch OLED. We see the title, we see that it has an OLED screen, just like the rumors were saying. I was like, oh my god, this is actually it. But then I watched the video and I was confused because it was the exact same console as the Nintendo Switch, but with a fancier screen. And I found it funny because the rumors were false. I was right, I got to laugh in the faces of all these people who were telling me, you're wrong, they absolutely will do a Switch Pro this year. And no, they won't. Those rumors, I thought they'd die out. They still kind of exist. They're persisting in bits, and some YouTubers are still saying, oh, at the end of 2022, 23, we'll see it. But most people have accepted it's not coming now. A lot of people put it down to the pandemic. They blame the chip shortage for the reason. If there was no shortage, then maybe we would see it. I can't say for certain. No one can. Either way, pandemic or not, I don't think they would have done a proper Switch Pro. Maybe they would have. Maybe they were planning it. I don't know, but I think there was just a mix-up of information. But that whole saga was finally put to rest, and I felt great for being right. Jumping from video games then back to movies. The Forever Purge is not the best title. So, the Purge movies, I've never talked about them on this channel. I enjoy them, but they're very repetitive, and I enjoy the concept, The concept is brilliant. The movies don't do a very good job at expanding on it. They focus on murder and stuff, but not the other crimes that happen, and there's so much room for expansion there, but the movies never did it. The Forever Purge was billed as the final movie, and it has problems, it does, but it's definitely the best Purge movie by a long shot. That whole finale stuff really kind of blew my mind with how they basically made America as a country non-existent anymore. But it kind of sets up an idea for Purge 6, which could be a civil war for America. So, I don't know how to feel about it being the end, or whether or not I want a sequel, but I did really enjoy that movie, and it was a lot better than I expected, even if it was still not that great, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. With that, this is going to be an end to part 1. I will do a part 2 of this because this video is going on a lot longer than I thought it would. And we're only halfway through the year. So we're coming up in 50 videos, I think. So I will go through the rest of this list in part 2. But this has been part 1 of me looking back and reflecting on all the videos I've uploaded in 2021. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What did you think of everything you've seen here? Did you watch many of my videos throughout last year? I just want to hear anything and everything you have to say down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching and please subscribe. Novus Corvius out.